It's good to be back with you. Welcome everyone to the press today. It's your daily look at newspapers in Africa and outside the continent. This Monday we're starting with the Sunday Post. It's a weekend publication of the Post newspaper from Zambia. The Post newspaper has at its lead story, government will not promise heaven on earth, Sata, addressing a rally at Matushi Basic School in Mofumbwe on Saturday to drum up support for PF candidate Stephen Masumba in Thursday's by-election. President Sata said the choice on November 8 lay in the hands of the people of Mofumbwe, as the government would only promise them development. The paper also says Transparency International Zambia has asked the Anti-Corruption Commission to critically study the judgment on which Henry Kapoko and 8 others were acquitted of theft by public servants before lodging an appeal. You got plenty of other news from the Post. We now take you to Cameroon. We're looking at the Eden newspaper. 30 years of Paul Biya in office and Cameroon's future. It's a brief headline that we'll find on page 2. CPDM militants will celebrate President Paul Biya's 3 decades in office on November 6. But the paper presents the journey so far of the New Deal regime. Don't forget to read that. Another revolution is that there are not up to 600 biometric kits in Cameroon as the nation gears up for local and parliamentary votes next year. Now, this is a worrying situation that was brought out by our biometric experts. Go to page 3. And the 2011 Human Rights Report published recently shows improvements in Cameroon. The report says Cameroon has a political will to enhance democracy and improve upon the human rights situation of the country. Get the Eden and read further. We look at Cape Times. It's a South African publication. This edition of the newspaper has on its front page Zille blocked at Nkatla. According to the paper, DA leader Helen Zille has given the government until the close of business on Wednesday to respond to questions about the renovations at the Nkatla home of South African President Jacob Zuma or face cut action. The paper also writes that Obama and Romney are heading for a photo finish. According to the newspaper, with the tight White House race headed for what could be a photo finish on Tuesday, analysts have warned that the U.S. could again have to wait weeks to find out who the next president will be. Visit Cape Times and get the details. Remain in South Africa, we're looking at Business Day. In the journal, it is written that Transnet National Port Authority, the TNPA, says it has devised a new pricing strategy based on the user pay principle. The body has also asked the National Port Regulator for tariff increases equivalent to inflation plus 3% for the 3 years from 2014 to 2015. This plan was on Friday set out by Chief Financial Officer Mohamed Abdul. In another development, the South African government has been asked to stand firm on key steps it needs to take to restore macroeconomic stability and investor confidence. This could come under pressure in the run-up to the African National Congress's ANC's landmark elective conference in Mangaung next month. Read more from Business Day. We take you outside Africa. We're looking at the Wall Street Journal, the Europe edition. According to the paper, Obama and Romney are neck and neck as the vote looms. The two enter the final sprint before Election Day. The paper says the vote looks set to be one of the closest presidential elections in U.S.'s history. And investors are hoping that this election will provide fiscal clarity. The paper reveals that mutual funds run by 3 of the banks that helped social networking site Facebook to go public were quick to flock to the stock during the high-profile initial public offering in May. Another report says Bishop Tawadras has been chosen as Egypt's new Coptic leader after the death of Shenouda III months back. All right, we're taking now to the UK. Let's look at the Daily Telegraph. The paper writes that National Health Service, NHS patients, are receiving an acceptable level of care from a growing army of unqualified health care assistants who have taken over nursing roles onwards and in care homes. Another story says nursery fees could be subsidized by the state after leader of the Liberal Democrats, Nick Clegg, promised he would work to end the nightmare of high child care bills. The paper also tells readers that Barack Obama has the edge over Mitt Romney in key states that the election is still too close to call. That's what the paper writes. And PM David Cameron is launching a major push to equip Gulf states with state-of-the-art British-made fighter jets as the fears in the region grows about Iran's nuclear program. Let's now look at Gulf News. Gulf News this Monday says a large scale of demonstrators in Kuwait were successfully dispersed an hour before they were meant to end without any injuries. Get the details through the calendar of the paper. According to the paper, Syrian rebels have taken an oil field in the country, shut down a warplane as their leaders meet in Qatar. Opinion polls show that the race to the White House is too close to call as Obama and Romney are neck and neck as they engage in a frenzied cross-country blitz of the remaining toss-up states on Sunday. Get the details through the paper. We're now looking at the Wall Street Journal. It's the Asian edition this time. In the journal, U.S. President Barack Obama and Republican contender Mitt Romney have entered a last sprint before Election Day, essentially deadlocked nationally in what looks set to be one of the closest presidential elections in U.S.'s history. We'll see this coming across most of the papers today. According to the journal, NBC News poll of likely voters released on Sunday found Obama leading his rival by a nose 48%. As the two men crisscross the country to rally supporters. That's final polls in many of those cities from Virginia and Ohio to New Hampshire, Colorado, and Wisconsin. Also find the race too close to call. The journal also says U.S. firms wall China investments. According to the paper, Sun Westbin and his colleagues from China got the red carpet treatment on a recent trip to the U.S. Over 10 days, Mr. Sun and other Chinese entrepreneurs and executives were welcomed by ex-President George W. Bush and courted by businesses. Our last paper today is this publication from China, China Daily. Making a stop there, we'll be looking at this paper. According to the paper, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China conducted a 4-day meeting on Sunday, approving a political report to be unveiled at the party's National Congress, slated for Thursday. The body also endorsed earlier decisions to dismiss 2 disgraced senior members from the CPC. The plenum was addressed by President Hu Jintao, General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee. The journal also says the 2 generals were on Sunday appointed Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission of the Communist Party of China. The appointment of Fan Shanglong and Zhu Qiliang are the latest move to increase new blood in the military leadership. That's how we saw the papers this Monday. Thank you for your trust. Remember to go online and get all our stories on www.afriquemedia.tv. Have a wonderful time with us.